Are you one of the people who desires to create wealth, or are you one of those people who just desires to have enough money just to be comfortable? In this video, I want to talk to the people who have a desire to create wealth, not just wealth, but lasting, generational, perpetuating wealth. And in order to create wealth, you have to understand the purpose of cash, right? Or the purpose of wealth. What wealth is, what wealth is not, the purpose of cash. And it's really fascinating when I talk to people. Like, I can talk to somebody for 5 minutes and I can pretty much, even if we're just talking about something random, I can pretty much assess where they are financially because your words betray you. They tell people who you are. And creating wealth, the idea feels hard until you learn how to do it. And then once you learn how to do it, you ask yourself the question, why did I ever feel like this was hard? I don't know if anybody can relate to what I'm talking about, but like when you're on the come up and you're struggling financially and you're like, I don't get why this isn't working. You don't get why it's not working. But number one reason it's not working is because you don't understand what wealth is. You don't understand the purpose of money. And when you start to realize some of those things, you don't understand the difference between cash flow and cash accumulation and cash perpetuation. Like, you don't understand these concepts. You just think, well, money is the stuff you get when you go to work and you trade some of your time, right? And what you do with it is you pay bills, or what you do with it is you pay bills on time and you create good credit. And so my objective is to give you a totally different perspective, because if you have a totally different perspective, then maybe you'll shift your focus to a totally different purpose when it comes to money. Does that make sense? And so when I think of like the concept in my book on how to build a strong financial house, you have it built on the foundation of truth, because truth is the foundation of everything, right? And then up here you have your asset protection. And then you have your 4 windows. And you have your door with your doorknob, of course. Okay, and so you have, this one is your income window. And on your income window, like most people get their income from their job, right? And so when people think of money, they think, number one, job. And what they do is they trade some of this for some of this, and then they trade this for the stuff that they desire to have for their car, their insurance, and their food, and whatever, their clothes, and whatever else. They trade this for this, and then this for everything else in their life. Okay, cool. And so because everything costs money, they emphasize the money, because everything costs money. And so they think, well, if I can just accumulate more money. And so people obsess, because people obsess in America, in the world, over accumulating money. And they think that cash accumulation is the primary objective of cash. But I submit to you that it's not. So people who are wealthy understand that cash accumulation is not the primary purpose of wealth. I'm going to get into that in a minute. So what happens is this is your what I call your IPA window. This is your WRL window, and this is your outgo window. So most people, poor people, their cash comes in. This is what happens with poor people. Their money comes into their house, and then it goes out the outgo window in the form of bills. Because poor people think the primary purpose of this is to pay for this. Oops. Is to pay bills, right? So poor people, they hyper obsess on bills and they hyper obsess on income so that they can pay those bills. Because if they don't pay those bills, they're going to get phone calls they don't want to receive. Like, they're going to lose things that they desire to have. And so, like, you may be able to relate to this, maybe not, but you're like, okay, do I pay my water bill this month or my electric bill this month? And maybe none of you have ever been there, but I've been there. That's where I used to live at the end of, am I going to pay my water bill this month or my electric bill this month street, right? And so, okay, are we going to pay the car insurance, or are we going to pay our gas bill? Like, and when I say gas, I'm talking about gas for the house, right? So it's like when you hyper focus on bills, your focus on this is what makes you poor. It's like thinking that this is the primary purpose of money is what makes you poor, right? Now, middle class people, Middle class people, what they do is they pay their bills on time so they can maintain good credit. So they use debt. And WRL stands for wealth reducing liabilities. So they take some of their money, they borrow money, and then they pay their debts. And so their money comes in through their job, and then it comes down through the debt window, and then through the outgo window, and then out in the form of bills again. But they focus, this is the primary window focus of the middle class people, right? And what a lot of people do is they say, well, if I could just make this window bigger, if I could just get more income for the amount of time that I worked, if I get paid a higher dollar an hour. So I was making $15 an hour. So now if I can make $35 an hour, my life is going to get better. Well, it is going to get incrementally better, but it's not going to get exponentially better, right? Or if I can make $50 an hour or $75 an hour or $100 an hour. And most people who are making $25 an hour right now, they think, man, if I could make $100 an hour, I'd be in the catbird seat for the rest of my life. Catbird seat, Texas colloquialism, very good spot. Okay, so rich people understand that this is the window that makes you wealthy. Income producing assets. You take some of your money, you take some of your time, and you put it in here. This is where we put that. And when we do this, when you take some of your money and some of your time and put it in here, in the beginning, it produces nothing. And this is why most people never do it. Because when you first start, it's like you can't really ever start making a lot of money until you learn how to stop working for money. And that doesn't mean you stop working, you quit your job because you stop working for money. It means you work on things that don't pay you in the beginning. Because a part of wealth creation, a big part of wealth creation, is delayed gratification. You have to put off things you desire to do now, and you have to sacrifice some of the things you want to do now on the altar of things you want to do in the future. What most people do is they do the exact opposite. They sacrifice the long term on the altar of the short term. When making your life better in any arena, you sacrifice the short term on the altar of the long term. It doesn't matter if you want to learn a new skill. It doesn't matter if you want to acquire wealth. It doesn't matter if you want to develop a new physical experience of life, like you want to have more energy and have more health and vitality in your body. It doesn't matter. It always goes down to the same thing. Valuing the long term over the short term. Why? Because eternity is more real than time. Because spirituality is more real than physicality. Because that's what it's a picture of. Like, this is bigger than just a conversation about money. This is a conversation about how life works. And so what happens when you take some of your money and some of your time and you put it in here, in the beginning it does nothing. Then it produces a little bit of money. And then it produces a little more. And then it produces a little more. And then it produces a little more. And this window, as you begin to fill it up with assets, or the assets begin to be more productive and produce more wealth, what happens is this window now starts putting some money back into this window. Right? And so now you have this thing where the money's coming in, but it's coming back. Then eventually, when you get to this point, you get to the point where this window, this income that you're making, now the income producing asset window now pays for your bills. So all of your bills, imagine if you had assets that could pay for all of your bills. For instance, I'm going to take this book. I'm going to take this book right here. This book right here generates between $7,000 and $18,000 a month. I wrote this book in 2006, right? Literally, all of my personal bills could be paid for with this one asset. I wrote the book one time. I put this book, boom, in that window. And every month after month after month after month after month after month, whether I go get it or not, this is income that comes in from my income producing asset window every month from this book. My other book, Boss Moves, I wrote that book in 2021. That book generates between $35,000 and $70,000 a month. I'm not, oh, you're so rich and wonderful. That has nothing to do with it. I have an income producing asset window that has assets in it that income can follow. If you're struggling financially right now, it's because you have no assets and you are an asset. Like your work and your time is your only asset. And if that's all you have, for now, that's fine. But man, if you know this now and you keep on living in 5 years from now, that's still all you have, maybe that's a problem. And so, eventually, this window in your house gets so big, you don't need this anymore. Eventually, this window in your house gets so big, not only does it pay for this, not only does it put money over here, but it also pays for your wealth-reducing liabilities. It changes the game forever. Like, when I think about money, this is how I think about it. When I get $1, I don't think, oh, what can I go buy? Like, what can I go buy? What bill can I pay? No, the first thing I think when I get some money is, okay, what can I use this to, what can I use this money for to acquire or enhance an asset that'll produce more money? How can I turn this money into more money? That's my first question. Some of you watching this video right now, it's not your first question, not your second question, not your third question, not your fourth question. In fact, it's not even a question on your question list. And you wonder why you're struggling. You're struggling because all of the money that comes into you and your family, you have to go out and get it. That's why you're struggling. If you think about it, when God made man, where did he put him? Did he put him in a factory? No, he didn't put him in a factory. Oh, he put him in a bakery, right? Because of the economic pie, right? No, he didn't put him in a bakery. Where did God put man when he made him? In a garden. Isn't that fascinating? Because what you do is you plant the seed and the seed becomes the asset. The seed produces the fruit. And the fruit is what you live off of. Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat. And see what's happening, you haven't planted any seeds for assets and you wonder why, like you're doing it. God gave us clues. You're doing it in a different way than he set it up and you're wondering why it's not working. It's not working because he didn't design it to work that way. He designed it to work a different way. And so what you got to do is you got to work within the parameters of how God created the system. Is what I'm saying making sense? I mean, I know I'm getting a little animated right now, but is what I'm saying making sense? This when I got this, it was a wrap. When I understood this, I was rich in my mind before I was rich in my pocketbook because I knew what I had needed to do now. I was done. It wasn't that I didn't have a job. It was that for the first time in my life, and it was April of 1999, for the first time in my life, I hyper-focused on this window. Hyper-focus. Assets. I need more assets. Got to have more assets. Need some assets. Income can follow. Okay, so now, here's what most people think. This is average Joe. Say, why is he so sad? Because he's average. I'm sorry. I couldn't resist. Okay, so this is average Joe. An average Joe stays broke because he thinks that the primary purpose of money, like he thinks the way you get rich, is cash accumulation. And so because, this is, by the way, this is what they taught us to do. Think about it. When you first started learning about money, what did they teach you to do with money? Come on, talk to me, somebody. Save it. You save it. So you save money. And by the way, rich people know that saving money is not a good idea, right? You don't, saving money, when you're saving money, you're saving something that's becoming worth less over time. If nothing hits it but inflation, is becoming worth less over time, right? So you think of it as I want to have this big pool of money that I can go back and keep looking at, and as long as it's getting bigger, I'm getting richer. Well, I mean, that's okay, but it's better if you're not doing that, okay? So, but what if, instead of you viewing money as a pool to be viewed, instead of envisioning wealth as a big pool of money to be viewed, what if you looked at it as a tool to be used? So this is cash accumulation, right? And that's what most people think is wealth. But I submit to you, I would rather, I'm sure y'all can guess what that is. Lazy river. You're funny. Lazy river. See, there's one in every crowd, and today Ryan is both of them. Okay. So this is cash flow. Cash flow is infinitely more important than cash accumulation. I would rather have like massive cash flow and small cash accumulation, or none, than massive cash flow, massive cash accumulation, no cash flow, or small cash flow. I would rather have massive cash flow. Now, if I could, this is such a cool concept. It's a cool concept because when you think about bodies of water, right? Or when I think about bodies of water, I think about a couple of different types of bodies of water. So we went to Israel a couple of times. I think we went in 2019, we went again in 2020, right? So one of the coolest things is when we went to Israel is like towards the end of our trip, we went down to the Dead Sea. And we stayed in, we didn't stay in the David Hotel the first time. We stayed in the David Hotel the second. I don't remember the hotel we stayed in. But what's really cool is when you stay at the Dead Sea, a lot of the hotels there, they have water that they pipe in from the Dead Sea into their pool, in their indoor pool. And it's like a flotation tank, right? So you can get in the swimming pool, and it's not a swimming pool. You can get in this floating pool, and you float. And when you get out, you just feel so invigorated from all the minerals. Okay, but nothing can live in the Dead Sea. Why it's interesting. So the Dead Sea in Israel is at the south. The sea at the north is the Sea of what? The Sea of Galilee. And there's a river that connects them. What's the river? The Jordan River. Okay, stuff lives in the Sea of Galilee. We know that because the apostles were fishing in the Sea of Galilee, right? Stuff can live in the Jordan River, but nothing can live in the Dead Sea. Isn't that fascinating? Or am I just easily fascinated? Okay, probably a little bit of both. Okay, so why can't things live in the Dead Sea? Because the Dead Sea has inlets, but no outlets. And that's why it's the Dead Sea. And I promise you, if your money has inlets and no outlets, your money is going to turn into a Dead Sea of cash accumulation. And I know a lot of people who have big cash accumulation, small cash flow, and they struggle financially. Why? Because all their money's tied up in a retirement account, or all their money's tied up for future use where they might or might not live long enough to use it. So cash flow is more valuable than cash accumulation. And if you can get cash flow and cash accumulation, that's better. But if I can figure out how to have my cash keep flowing long after I'm gone, like I'm gone, eventually, one of the things we all have in common is we're going to die. Either you're going to come to my funeral or I'm going to come to yours. Or you're going to find out about my funeral or I'm going to find out about yours, right? That's how it works. Like you just live long enough, everybody that you know, either you're going to their funeral or they're coming to yours, right? But at least they're going to find out about it. Okay. Well, long after I'm gone, my objective is to have cash perpetuation. And my cash perpetuation is going to be determined by what I do with the cash flow and the cash accumulation while I'm still here. Because without going into great detail, because I don't have time, definitely don't have time, without going into great detail, legacy wealth is not an amount of money. We're going to create generational wealth. Generational wealth is not an amount of money. There have been plenty of families who've accumulated a bunch of money, and in less than 2 generations, it was all wiped out. Like millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, just gone in 2 generations. Why? Because generational wealth is not an amount. Generational wealth is a system of cash perpetuation, where cash perpetuates and your cash flow perpetuates after you die. And you can, like all of us can set that up. How? Well, one, by having assets that income can follow. And the assets that income can follow while we're alive, and asset that income can follow even after we're gone. So I think about the fact that I've self-published these books. When I'm gone, my family still has access to the funnel, the books. That cash flow keeps coming in. Why? Because it wasn't determined by something that I do every day. It's something that my cash flow from those assets is determined by something I did one day, not by something I do every day, right? And when I say one day, I mean a group of days, right? I've done it one time. But also, we can use life insurance for cash perpetuation. So I learned this concept from a guy named Garrett Gunderson. Garrett Gunderson wrote a book called What Would Billionaires Do? He wrote a bunch of books, Killing Sacred Cows. I don't know if any of you have ever read any of his books. But, I didn't learn it from him because I learned about life insurance back in the 80s, probably before Garrett Gunderson was born. But the concept that I'm talking about right now. Wealthy families that perpetuate wealth, one of the things that they do is they use life insurance for wealth perpetuation. For a couple of reasons. One, the death benefit of life insurance is not taxable, right? And so being insured, making sure you have life insurance on yourself and, hear me now, everyone in your family. Did I say that too fast? Making sure but I thought life insurance was income replacement insurance. That's one of the things it does. But you don't have to, but if you're serious and not just curious about creating wealth, one of the things that you would desire to do if you knew to desire to do it is to have life insurance on everybody in your family because you already know everybody in your family is going to die. That's not what we want to think about. So we think if we don't buy any life insurance, we don't think about it, then maybe they won't die. They're going to die anyway. So think about it. Get life insurance on yourself, get life insurance on your children, get life insurance on your spouse, and I mean significant life insurance. It's worth it. I don't sell life insurance, so nobody can accuse me of trying to make a sale. I don't sell life insurance, but I bought tons. Why? Because I want my wealth to perpetuate. What people don't realize is how someone in your immediate family dying affects you. They don't realize it until it happens. They don't realize how surreal it is, how energy draining it is, how distracting it is, how confusing it is, how surreal it is. And they feel like, well, if somebody dies, I'll just go back to work and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's what you think you'll do because you haven't experienced it yet. You don't understand. You cannot conceive the level of distraction and the level of anguish that comes with that. And so having life insurance gives you the ability to step back from a minute. Now maybe going back to work is something that would be beneficial to you, but it depends on who you are, maybe not. But wouldn't you rather have the choice, right? And while your children don't provide income, generally, right? They do provide a sense of significance and responsibility and purpose. And if one of your children dies, you're not I don't want to profit off my family's death. Okay. Right. I get that. So, but you don't want to necessarily have to go back to work when your family needs you to be there with them to support them because your family member died, their family member died also. And if you're the strong one, they need you. Y'all picking up what I'm putting down?
Yes, sir.
Like there are guys that have like if you're a married man and you have a wife and children and you don't have life insurance, shame on you. You don't have I shouldn't say shame on you, but do something about it. Like if you don't have life insurance because I don't want my wife to have all this money and then she goes marry somebody else, blah, 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 and then this dude's doing more money. Okay, right. But you want her to have to go find somebody else because you didn't take care of her. Did I come out swinging too hard? Right. Well, my wife doesn't generate any money, so I don't need life insurance on her. Right. So you're going to leave your children at home and go back to work when their mom dies because you can't stay home with them and encourage them and strengthen them and bless them with your presence in the hardest time in their life because you didn't have enough foresight to have life insurance. All I'm saying is let's stop pretending that we're not going to die. And let's act like the clock is ticking and we're all expiring. And if you will set up your life where you prioritize this as step one, this is step one, This is step 2, and this is step 3. Then you can create generational wealth. This is wealth building 101. Let me say this though, and I'll talk more about this in another video. How much cash flow you create, how much money you accumulate doesn't determine how wealthy you are. Like, wealth is not money. I did a whole video on this already. I forgot about that. I did a whole video on this already called Wealth is Not Money. Or Money is Not Wealth. Money is not wealth. What is wealth? Wealth is your ability. Whose ability? Everybody tap yourself on the chest, say my ability. Wealth is your ability to create value for someone other than yourself. That's wealth. And when you can create value for someone other than yourself, you're wealthy. And when you can't create value for someone other than yourself, you're not wealthy. So this is my Wealth Building 101 video. Hopefully it'll help you in some way, shape, or form to make a decision to increase your cash flow and your cash and prepare your cash perpetuation. So eventually when you accumulate a bunch of cash, it's not flushed down. So, by the way, let me say this. When I talk about cash perpetuation, it's not enough just to have life insurance and just to have assets. You have to raise up children who you teach to be financially literate, who understand these principles, so that when you die, they don't decimate the wealth, they perpetuate the wealth. Hope this video blesses you. Stay blessed by the best, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. What is one of the most valuable skills you can develop in 2024? I think that's a great question. Well, as a business owner, as someone who desires to build a brand, I believe one of the most valuable skills you can develop is how to garner attention of multitudes of people. And one of the best ways to do that is to go viral. So I have with me today the absolute most brilliant viral scientist. I made up that name. He didn't call himself that, but that's what I call him. The ultimate viral scientist on helping people get their content to go viral on social platforms. None other than two-time best-selling author, Brendan Kane. Brendan, glad to have you here, brother.
Thank you, Myron. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Yeah, give it up for Brendan. Give it up for Brendan. So this whole idea of going viral, before we even get started into talking about how to go viral, how would you define viral? Because for some people, they feel like that my video got 100 views or 1,000 views or 10,000 views. It's viral. So how would you describe viral?
Well, I think it's a great question, and I love the way that you started off our conversation, because I think some people misconstrue what virality means. I think some people, especially business owners, they're like, I don't want to go viral. I just want to generate more business and revenue and customers. Because they think that going viral is like a silly cat video or a prank, or like that their subject matter can't go viral. Well, I can definitively tell you, I've been doing this for 20 years. Any subject matter can go viral. Taxes go viral, finance, insurance, real estate, nutrition. Any subject can go viral with the right context to it. And we'll talk about that today. Mm-hmm. But virality in the context of what we look at it is we're not talking about going viral for the sake of going viral. Okay. We want to take your core subject matter, your core expertise, and make that go viral so it actually translates to scalable commerce. Because if it doesn't translate to any business goal and objective, then why are you doing it? And also you'll burn yourself out and there's a big thing with creator burnout and fatigue. If it's not hitting your goals and objectives, you're ultimately going to stop doing it. So kind of the exercise that I like to do with people is people here in the audience or people watching, one of the things that you can simply do is, how many people does your average post connect with each time you post? For some people, it may be 100, some people maybe 1,000, 10,000, or 100,000. Whatever that number is, I want you to pull out a calculator and multiply it by 10, and then multiply it by 100, and then multiply it by 1,000. And just imagine that number of people, whatever it is, seeing your message, your product, your brand, each time you post a piece of content. What would that do for your business or your brand? That is what viral is. So I hate sitting there and saying, oh, going viral is 1 million views. Right. Because it could be 1 million views on a prank video that has nothing to do with your business and it doesn't translate into commerce. For some people, they don't necessarily need to get millions of views. It would be tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of views on their content would be a massive boost to their business or brand. So that's how I look at the concept of going viral.
Wow, that's so cool, because when I think about like our YouTube channel, for instance, we've had a couple of videos that have gone kind of viral, but like, I think when something's viral in a niche, it can be way more profitable than just random virality. Am I correct?
100%. And even somebody in your case, because we've worked with, people with millions of subscribers and hundreds of millions or billions of views, is even if we take what you're doing today and you increase the effectiveness by like 20 or 30% in terms of growing that viewership, that's going to have a huge, meaningful difference in terms of your business, in your brand. And I think that people also just get lost in, again, this concept of, in order for me to go viral, I have to water down my message and disconnect from the audience that I really want to connect with.
So it sounds like you're saying going viral is only part of the equation. It's who are you going viral with? Like who are you reaching? And then why are you going viral? Like, why are they watching? And then what's the next thing that's going to happen as a result of that? That's what it sounds like you're saying.
100%. So there's a few different factors, and it was interesting because I was just having a conversation with a guy that runs a business, a garage business that does about $200 million a year, and he was like, he wants to work with
a garage business. He builds garages.
Doors.
Oh, garage
doors. Yeah.
Okay, I was
so
like, is he fixing cars? What's he doing? Okay.
He has multiple locations across the U.S. So what he was
hundreds of millions of dollars worth of garage doors.
Yes. And he scaled it with paid media, but now he wants to get into organic. But he said, Brendan, I really want to work with you. I want to do this, but I'm just scared because I see a lot of influencers out there generating millions or tens of millions of views a month, but they're not generating any revenue. And I said, well, first, stop here for a second. You have a successful business. So if you are generating more eyeballs on that brand, on that content, it's going to correlate to more business for you. Now, the challenge comes is when you don't have a business, you don't have a solid foundation, it doesn't matter how many eyeballs you get because it's not going to translate into meaningful commerce for you. So that's a big element to it. The other aspect to it is, again, and this is where kind of the science comes in, is you do definitely want to be speaking to your core audience, but in order to meaningfully grow your audience base, grow viral to whatever extent that means to you, you need to widen it out to the general population. And the reason you need to do that is because of what controls whether your content generates 100 views or 10 million views, and that's the algorithms. And there's a lot of misinformation and demonization from frustrated content creators of, oh, the algorithms are suppressing my reach to get me to pay for reach. That's not the case, because then nobody would ever go viral. You wouldn't generate views. Or I'm shadow banned. The 90% of the time, that's not the case, or 95% of the time.
What does shadow ban mean? I've heard people say that.
That basically they're suppressing your reach on purpose because they don't want audiences to see it because of the subject matter that you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
So 95% of the times that's not the case. So what does
content is just not good.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's not and I want to just preface it by saying it's not the content, it's the context of it. Because it's not the message that's the problem, it's just the way that we're presenting it. And we'll get into that in a minute. I just want to break down, like, what is the algorithm? What is it meant there to do? Well, the algorithm is very simplistic. It just plays to the overall business goals and objectives of these platforms, meaning how does a social media platform make money? By serving ads.
Sure.
So the more content people are watching, the more ads they can serve, the more profit they generate. Sure. So what happens when you publish something to your social media profile? So let's just give an example. Is like, let's just say you're starting out, maybe you have tens of thousands of followers. So when you post a piece of content, it's going to seed it to 100 people, and it's going to measure two things. How effective is it in stopping the scroll, meaning stopping people from going on to the next piece of content? And then how effective it is in holding attention once they've stopped the scroll. And they'll seed it to 100 people, measure those two things. And if it does a really good job, it'll seed it to another 100 people. And if it does a good job, another 100, another 100, and keep scaling out that way. But if that first 100 people, it doesn't do a good job in terms of stopping the scroll and holding attention, it's just going to cut the reach right away. Why? Because if any one of us opened up our favorite app today, there's probably 150,000 pieces of content it could seed to us based upon the people that we follow and the content that we've engaged with. So it has so much content it could seed to people. And if their core goal is to keep people on the platforms longer, they're just going to cut reach to anything that is not playing to that business goal or objective. Now, you will see certain content creators.
Basically, if I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. If we give the platform what they want, they will give us what we want.
100%.
Okay.
And if you think about any of these platforms, it's not like Netflix where they invest billions of dollars in original content. They rely on us. We are the fuel that runs these platforms. So ultimately, they want us to succeed. They want to partner with us. They're not out there to get us. They're not out there to kill our business or anything. It's just we have to prove that we are great storytellers and that we can grab and hold attention longer than the other content they have available at their disposal.
Wow, so good. Okay, so every time I talk to you, my head turns into a popcorn machine and all these ideas start popping in my head. So I know you. A lot of people watching us may not know you. So tell us like your origin story, how you got started in this whole viral thing. And, you know, if you want to talk about like 1 million followers, that's how I heard of you. Because when I read it, I said, there's no way. Like the title, 1 million followers, and you got 1 million followers on Facebook, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In 30 days. And I'm like, no way. So I'm like, I'm going to see. And then I saw it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to read his book. And I read your book. I was like, that was really good. So like, how did you get started in this whole journey to be, in my mind, the ultimate viral scientist?
So initially I wanted to be a film producer. So I went to film school, and this was around like 2003, 2004. And at the time and still holds true today, they don't teach you anything about business in film school. And I wanted to be a film producer. I thought you needed to have some foundational aspect of what it means to run a business if you're going to contribute to the business side of the entertainment industry. So I just figured while I was going to school is just to create a few internet companies just to learn and experiment, to understand what does it take to get something off the ground? What does it take something to run something? So I started a few internet companies while I was in college, and then I moved to LA in 2005 to pursue a career in film. And like everybody else, you start at the bottom. I was making coffee, copy, deliveries, all the grunt work.
Just like they show on TV when they're doing filmmaking movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I was working for a movie studio, and you want to connect with the studio executives, the producers, the directors, to get your foot in the door and scale those relationships. But when people ask me, why did you move to LA? They would say, I would say, I want to be a film producer. And I could see everybody's eyes glaze over because I was just one of 1 million people trying to do the same thing. So I had to take a step back and analyze, well, how can I provide the most amount of value to the higher up so I can build those relationships? And I noticed that every time we finished a film, a piece of content that we would spend tens of millions of dollars producing, and then we would spend tens of millions of dollars promoting, there would be a sense of anxiety that would come over the office because it's different than any other business. You don't have years or decades to build a brand. You're literally taking this piece of content and you need hundreds of millions of people around the world to know about it in a matter of months. And I noticed at the time, they were still just so reliant on traditional advertising mediums like television, radio, print, things like that. And digital was just starting to reemerge after the dot-com bust, and social media was just coming on the scene. You know, MySpace and Friendster were the predominant players, and Facebook and YouTube had just launched. So I just went to the head of the studio. I said, listen, I know how to tap into these online sources for a fraction of the cost or no cost at all. For example, we did the first ever YouTube influencer campaign for a movie with Jason Statham called Crank. And through that, we just started seeing success with that. So I started building digital divisions for movie studios. And I had to just analyze myself as like, do I really want to go down this corporate route? You know, because the movie studio system is very corporate, it's very slow, it's lacking innovation, or stick with kind of the social media route. So I just stuck with the social media route and started building kind of more technology and strategies around it. So I created the first influencer technology platform on top of MySpace because I just noticed that they were reliant on just bottom basement banner ads and CPMs. So I built an influencer technology platform to help kind of monetize that network and just continued down that path to the next kind of role that I had was building a social media paid optimization firm. Because it was, I don't know the exact date, but people don't realize that like YouTube and Facebook specifically, because they were the first kind of the big players in the space, initially didn't start with their own advertising networks and advertising platforms. So that launched, I think it was like 2011, 2012. So I helped form one of the first advertising agencies that was optimizing that spend for Fortune 500 companies.
Wow.
But what I saw as we got it up to managing about 100 million a year in paid advertising was that these Fortune 500 companies were just using traditional creative assets on social media. So they would take a TV spot and put it on like YouTube and expect it to perform. So I knew there had to be a better way to go about it. And that's where I left and started building the foundations of the creative model that we use at Hookpoint, which is our viral content model, because I just saw so much time, energy, and money wasted on not really having the right creative process to really scale, whether it's your ad spend or, more importantly, the creative resources and the creative energy that you're putting into it. So that's where I started building the foundations, and it was outlined in my first book, 1 Million Followers, and then followed up with Hookpoint, and then in more depth, the Guide to Going Viral, which just recently launched.
Wow. All of that. Like, is this amazing, y'all? Like, make some noise. Make some noise for Brandon King. So when I started, and you can tell me, you can put me on blast in front of the whole world, and I'm okay with it. Okay, so I'm just telling you right now, you can like shoot straight. So I started my YouTube account channel March 15th, 2007. I uploaded my first video that week, right? And I was on YouTube, and I know you're going to think, man, this guy really didn't get it. And I really didn't. I was on YouTube for 14 years before I knew that YouTube paid people for videos. When I turned on monetization, I had been on YouTube for 15 years when we turned on monetization. And I had already been monetized for over a decade. I had already been monetizable for over a decade. But I was at a conference, heard a guy speak, blah, blah, blah. I just decided, and I want you to tell me whether this was a good decision or not, but I feel like it was. I decided when I found out how YouTube worked that I'm going to go all in on this YouTube thing. When I say all in, I am going to do at least one, I'm going to produce at least one YouTube video a week for the next 10 years and see if I can get good at it. I don't care how many subscribers I get. I don't care how many, and when I say I don't care, I do care, but that's not going to be my primary focus. I want to get better with every video. And I heard Mr. Beast talk about that, and that's why I said, well, that makes sense, because 10 years is going to go by whether I get better at it or not. I might as well get better at it. And I'm being really transparent now. I don't feel like I'm good yet. I feel like I'm getting better, though. I don't feel like I'm good at YouTube. But we've had some success with YouTube, and it's really amplified our message. It's really multiplied our reach. But I don't feel like I'm good yet. So I thought I had an idea of what it meant to have a video go viral, right? So we've got, and I just looked the other day, I think in total, we have 5 videos since April of 2022 that have over 1 million views. One has almost 4 million. Okay. And I thought, man, this is really good. It was really good for me because we only had like 10,000 subscribers that year, right? So here's what happened recently. I got interviewed getting out of my car in front of Eddie V's. That was 10 days ago, I think, 10 or 11 days ago. Just on Instagram, that video now in 11 days has 68.5 million views and over 24 million views on TikTok. Now I feel like I have an understanding of what viral is that I didn't even know that was a possibility for anything. So why did that video get so many views?
So there's a few elements to it. Let's look at the macro level. So what you're talking about is the account School of Hard Knocks.
School of Hard Knocks.
And it generated it on Instagram. They do really well across Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
They do.
So one of the reasons that they do so well is they focus on a single format. Okay, so what is a format at the end of the day? So the format that they use is called Man on the Street. So you approach and engage with a random stranger on the street and interact with them to some kind of reveal or end result. There's 10 different versions of this. Like I have a friend that we've worked with, his name's Alex Stemp, that's a photographer that does it, that approaches random strangers on the street, offers them professional photo shoots. And reveals the results at the end. He's amassed an audience of 20 million people with that single format.
A photographer with
Yes.
20 million. Wow, that's crazy.
So that's an example of one format. Now our team,
or like I've seen this kid that goes up and says to people, "Can I sing you a song?" And he's got
Yes.
his guitar. That's man on the street.
Or there's a lot of ones of people playing a piano in public and capturing the reaction. That's another man on the street.
Okay.
Now he's not like really approaching people. People are he's measuring their reaction.
Okay.
There's many different versions of it.
Okay.
But that's an example of a format. Now, our team's done about 10,000 hours of research across 220 formats. So I don't want anybody...
How many formats?
220. And we do about research on like 3 to 5 new formats each week. So the reason I say that is I don't want people to think I have to use man on the street format in order to go viral. Because when we work with clients, we want people to be excited about that. So going back to your original question is they're focusing on a single format and mastering that single format. Now, man on the street is a very powerful format to grow views and audience. Now, translating into business depends on the business and how you kind of leverage it. There's another guy, Simon Squibb, that does this really well. He approaches random strangers in the street and asks, what is your dream? And then he tries to help them achieve their dream by investing in their company or giving them some advice or things of that nature. So the first step is they have a single format and they've mastered that format. Now, most people will look at a format like that and say, oh, I see what they're doing. I'm just going to approach a random stranger in the street and interact with them. 99% of people that will try that will fail because they don't understand the context of what makes that successful. So the process, and we've done this with your YouTube account, that we would do if you want to tackle that man on the street format is we would take 5 to 10 of the top performers. So like in School of Hard Knocks, that's actually pretty high for a format. It's like 5 to 10 million views plus. Now yours got close to 70 million.
It's got more than any I've seen on the channel, which blows my mind.
Yeah, so we'll get into why in a minute.
Okay.
So we would take 5 to 10 of the high performers, 5 to 10 of the average performers, and 5 to 10 of the low performers and see what's happening in those high performers that's not showing up in the low performers from a context perspective.
Okay.
Meaning it's not about really the content, but these contextual elements, such as like, it could be like the pacing, the tonality, what happens in those first 3 seconds, what's happening in the captions, the title cards, the hook, the facial expressions, the body cues. In case of the School of Hard Knocks, the reaction, what's the reaction of you, what's the reaction of the person? Because we want to really understand the storytelling elements that actually drive performance of that format versus drive down the performance, because that's where you get a fundamental understanding of that. Going back to my experience of going to film school, and I'm sure you've seen this expressed in other types of medium, what happens when you go to film school? You sit down and you break down classic films. You watch Alfred Hitchcock, you read screenplays, you break these elements down because you need to understand what it means to tell a story through the medium of film. But the reality is with social media, it's no different. It's just another communication method. But what people misconstrue with it is anybody can pull out their phone, press record, and post it. Thus, they think that there's not a lot of science, nuance to how you tell stories. So that's a true blessing in that it's completely democratized communication, meaning anybody can reach the masses. It's not about how fancy your setup is, how fancy your camera is, how much money you have, or your team size. It's really about your ability to communicate. Now, the downside is most people see it so easy to post something that they don't put a lot of thought into it. So going into kind of the video that went viral with you, like what were the elements that caused it to go viral?
Okay.
So the first 3 seconds are critical because as we were talking about in the beginning, what are the 2 things the algorithms are looking at? How effective are you at stopping the scroll? And how effective are you in holding attention? So in the first few seconds, it's very clear this guy is approaching you. Now the audience doesn't know who you are in this case. And he says, "Excuse me, sir." And you're getting out of the car and he asks, "Is this your Rolls Royce?" And then you kind of like laugh and you're like, "Of course this is my Rolls Royce." So in the first 3 seconds, it's an amazing stoppage of the scroll because he's like, how are you going to react? Right. The audience doesn't know. You could just be like, "Get out of the way." Right. Like move away. Like Alex Stemp, the photographer, he had a video that went viral where he went into a retail store and asked, "Can I do a professional photo shoot in here?" And they said no. And then he moved on to the next one and to the next one. Because with Man on the Street, one of the powerful aspects of is you don't know what's going to happen. And Man on the Street's been along way before social media. It was in the late night talk shows you would do. You remember Jay Leno would do Man on the Street segments and things of that nature.
I do remember that, yeah.
So in those first 3 seconds, he's setting a clear expectation of, excuse me, sir. And he says, is this your Rolls Royce? And you make a funny joke, which engages the audience further. And of course, this is mine. And then he's like, what do you do for business? Right. And then the important aspect is the pacing and the tonality is structured in a way that people can clearly follow it. Now, in some of his low performers, the pacing is all over the place. It goes from question to question. It's like super rushed. Now, the other aspect that actually, because remember, again, the two things, grab attention. So we talked about grabbing attention and holding attention. The other amazing aspect that unfolded in that, he then asked you what was the most amount of money that you made in a year, which was 15 million. But then the next question he asked you have you ever been broke? Have you ever been broke? So what does that ever been broke do to the audience? Following the 15 million. They can relate. Right. Because if it was just the 15 million,
nobody can relate.
Nobody can relate, and they would just move right past it. But then it was, have you ever been broke? And you said, yeah, I've been broke 2 times. So now the audience can relate and be like, well, maybe this guy can teach me something. And then and I forget his name, the guy that interviewed you, James asked, well, what would be your advice for somebody that was struggling? And then you could give tangible advice for that person. So in those first few seconds, again, this interaction, what's going to happen? Funny joke, reveal that the most amount of money you have, you can relate to the person because you've been broke a few times, and then you get into tangible advice. Versus an underperformer with him, and we've done the breakdown of it, is a guy was in the wine business. And he was just talking about, that he flies all over the world, he's in the oil and the wine business and all these, and there was no tangible aspect to it. And it just jumped from it just felt very disjointed versus if you go and watch that video, there is a very clear story that's being told and there's very tangible and actionable advice that you're providing, and it's all easy to follow. Even though you're at a completely different level than 99.9% of people watching that video, people can relate to you and take tangible advice from you. So that is one of or a few of the different reasons that video generated close to 70 million views.
Okay, cool. I'm stupefied.
But what I would recommend is, like, just as a pure exercise for people to take away, is go find your video on the School of Hard Knocks and then go find one of their lowest performing videos. For them, it may be like 500,000 or 600,000 views. That's not the point. Just find one that is low performer and put them side by side and watch your video versus a low performer and just see if you can spot the difference, because it's the same creator, it's the same account, same format, same number of followers, but you'll have a 70 million view one and maybe like a 300,000 view one.
Wow.
And then that's where you'll start understanding kind of the difference between what it means to go viral with that format and not. And that doesn't mean that your goal has to be, I'm going to generate 10 million views with a format. It's just like I did in film school. You're learning from Alfred Hitchcock. I'm not going to be Alfred Hitchcock, but you can learn nuances about storytelling from those different elements. Now, I also want to just point out, and you're a master of this, is mindset. Some people would be like, I can't be in front of 10 million people. That's not kind of the thing to focus on. The thing to focus on with social media, and this is one of the elements that I learned from working with Taylor Swift very early on, is social media is not a one-to-many platform. Even though you had 70 million people watch that video, 95% of people watching that are watching it by themselves. So you're communicating to one person, not to many people. And that helps overcome kind of some of those mindset aspects, is understanding that you, as you're creating a video, are just communicating to one person. And if you're communicating to one person, it makes it a lot easier from a mindset perspective to get going and move forward with it.
Does it also make it easier for the people watching to feel like you're talking to them?
Yes.
Got it.
Because one of the things you'll see a lot with underperforming videos, it'll start out with, "Hey everybody," "Hey everyone." Well, who is everyone? Because people are sitting on their couch or on the bus or on the train watching their videos or content.
Wow. So, are there formats that are better than other formats for social media for business?
So it's a very nuanced question. So when we work with people, there's kind of like beginner formats and then there's advanced formats. So kind of understanding kind of where you're at.
Can you give me an example of 3 beginner formats and 3 advanced formats, for instance?
So beginner format, we just talked about Man on the Street, very
that's
beginner.
A beginner format.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, because if you look at School of Hard Knocks, they're probably shooting that on an iPhone. You see his microphone. It's not an expensive microphone.
Right.
There's not a lot
Right, it's a Rode.
that's going into that. There's another one that is called 2 Characters, 1 Light Bulb, where it's the same person playing 2 different characters. They play the expert and they play the novice, and they're breaking down a misconception about a subject matter. It's used for law like Erica Kohlberg, the lawyer. She does an amazing job with it.
She does a great job.
Mark Tilbury uses it for finance. It can be used for any subject matter, but that is a format that you can do on your own with an iPhone. There is
It's called 2 what? 2
Characters, 1 Light Bulb.
2 characters, 1 light bulb. Okay.
Another beginner one is called Walking Listicles. There's a guy named Robert Croak that does this, that has 1 million followers on TikTok, that's basically walking around the block, talking into his iPhone, breaking down business advice into kind of like 3 or 4 different action items. It's kind of very easy to kind of shoot on your own. More advanced ones, there's one called the Visual Metaphor. One that's Dr. Julie Smith uses it. She's a clinical psychologist on TikTok that breaks down complex topics like PTSD, anxiety, panic attacks, where she's using props and elements. There's a visual metaphor. It's a little bit more.
That's a little bit more complicated.
A little bit more complicated because you're kind of manipulating objects. You have to set up things of that nature. Long form can be more complicated. So there's like explainer videos that break down.
So those 3 formats that you just named are all short form.
Yes.
Okay. Short form
video formats. Yeah.
Formats. That's the word I was looking for. Okay.
YouTube can get a little bit more complicated, or a little bit more advanced, I should say.
Before you go to YouTube, though, or is that what you're doing now with the advanced?
Going more advanced, I'm just trying to think if there's any more. So the visual metaphor format is one that is a little bit more advanced. Reaction, like we do a reaction format that can be a little bit more advanced from a nuance perspective. But it can also be, so there's different levels to some of these formats as well, like seeing people to react to content. It can be a beginner, it can be advanced at the same time. I'm just trying to think of other short form that are a little bit more advanced. I think more of the advanced stuff comes on the long form side of things.
Okay. And like you were saying with YouTube.
So like an explainer video, like Veritasium does a great job of this. Like their most viewed video is like, why are there 99 billion black balls on this reservoir? Like if you watch it, it's a 10 to 12 minute video. So it gets a little bit more advanced in terms of the retention side of it. Like how do you hold attention for as long as possible? There's more variables and areas to kind of skip up with. Mr. Beast has a format that was actually created by BuzzFeed as like 1 versus a million, where it's, what does a $1 hotel room look like versus $1 million? So that's another format of YouTube. It just takes a little bit more of a skill set there. One other format that we helped actually develop with a client that actually can be both beginner or advanced, depending on the level that you do, it's called Is It Worth It? So we worked with a leather craftsman that literally had no social media experience. And I want to just say this for everybody watching, is like, it's not about how much experience you have. Oftentimes when we work with people with a lot of experience, it works against them because we have to untrain things. But he was an example of somebody with little to no social media experience, stuck at 2,000 followers. So using this concept of a format, he wanted to talk about his expertise of leather goods so he could sell more of his handbags, briefcases, wallets, things of that nature. But his idea of social media before was, I'm going to create a commercial for my products of like showing the features and things of that nature. But it just didn't gain any traction because nobody logs onto social media saying, well, I want to see a great ad. So we helped develop this format called Is It Worth It? Well, he'll take like a $1,200 Chanel handbag, deconstruct it on screen, and tell you whether it's worth the money that you're paying for it. So that format, that single format, took him from 2,000 followers to 2.5 million followers across his social media channels, generating hundreds of millions of views. And again, because he had the foundation of a business, his revenue took off. So that's another format that he shoots on his own on his iPhone. That's a little bit easier to pull off. Now, it can be more advanced depending on the subject matter that you're working with.
I have so many questions. We have so little time, but I have so many questions. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I'm going to segue the title of my next video that I was going to do live into a conversation with you, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because...
And I also just want to say, like, we're covering a lot of ground here and we're kind of scratching the surface. So just for your people watching this, anybody can get my new book for free, absolutely free, the PDF or Kindle, by just going to hookpoint.com/golden, so that they can just dive in deeper there.
Congratulations for being in the right place at the right time. Thank you for that, by the way. Give it up for Brendan, y'all. I mean, wow. I am more, so hookpoint.com/golden.
Yep.
So you've seen my videos, obviously. Do I have one format or do I have more than one format? Well, I have this format, the conversational, and maybe that's the same format, but what's my format, and do I have more than one? Why are you laughing at me?
So you do have a format, but it's kind of like a format that you created without looking at other successful formats. So kind of one of the exercises that we did, and we kind of just scratched the surface with you, is, and this is, again, with any success on any platform, is how do you stop the scroll? How do you hold attention? In YouTube, it's different. It's what is the click-through percentage on the thumbnail and headline and the retention. So one of the exercises we did with you is like looking at all your thumbnail and headlines to understand, like, well, what is really driving the breakthrough success in terms of how you're contextualizing it to get people to stop and pay attention, first and foremost. So you definitely have your own format. What I would just recommend with your own content is looking at comparing it to other people that are doing something similar. But outperforming you by like 10x. And again, everything that we do from like a reference and comparison standpoint, it's not about the content, it's about the context. So we're never trying to tell a client like you or anybody, oh, change your message. It's just like, what are the variables that we can learn from so that we can optimize what you're doing with it.
No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, you can't hurt my feelings teaching me to get better, bro.
No, but it's an important distinction, because people automatically think, and I have seen this with other social media agencies, they try and push you in a different direction just to get performance. And that's just, again, it's not going to play to your goals, your business goals, and also changing who you are is going to come off inauthentic in terms of the performance on screen. So
good. Brendan, literally every time I talk to you, it's like my brain just goes bananas and I've got all these questions. So we're going to do the follow-up, and those of you on YouTube, when you watch this video, you will have already seen this. I mean, when you watch the follow-up for this video, this video, even though we did it first, you're going to see it second. So just know that. It'll be okay though. And I'll give you a reference point to all of that stuff in the post-production thing, which you do. So Brendan, thank you one more time, man. That was so phenomenal. It just absolutely blew my mind again. I feel like, even though we've had many conversations, I feel like I've never even talked to you before. That's so crazy. Give it up for Brendan Kane, y'all.
Thank you.
That was awesome, bro. That was awesome.
Thank you.
That was awesome.